Greetings to everyone today, part of our daily Life Connection gathering. Again, today I'm going to share with you this brief video uh, from a scripture that I believe will give us strength and help center us today and give us a foundation to stand on. Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 27 is the one I'm going to be looking at today. The eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. The eternal God, the God who always has existed, always will exist. That God who is the one great constant of life and the universe, the eternal God. That's who is our refuge. And underneath are the everlasting arms. This was one of my mom's favorite verses. For any of those who knew her, you know that during her lifetime she experienced and dealt with a lot of physical issues, hospitalizations, and sometimes for her the quality of life was not the greatest. But I heard her so often say, "But underneath are the everlasting arms." And it just gave her a strength and a foundation that enabled her to live with joy and enabled her to live with strength and courage in spite many times of physical limitations. That's the God that I want to talk to us about today. That's the God who is our refuge. The turmoil is real. It feels like our foundations are being shaken these days. It seems that what is familiar, our daily routines have been disrupted, and we're having to find new paths, new ways to connect with people, new ways to even do our shopping for groceries and so on. It seems like everything is unfamiliar. And in those times, it can be very disquieting, very difficult to be at peace internally. Uh, Today, I want to remind us that in God, the eternal God, the one whose everlasting arms are underneath us all, is a sure foundation for us. Just like the storm may be raging and devastating, but it does end. And life does go on. Those who lived through the 1917 pandemic or the 57 pandemic or 9/11, these times shake us to the very core and bring sadness and devastation to our world. But I guess if there's good news is that yes, it still does carry on. Things do begin to rebuild and return to a normal. Because underneath is the steadfastness of God's eternal realities. The reality is the sun still does shine. The seasons still do change. Gravity still does work, thank goodness. Light still does dispel darkness. The earth still continues in its orbit around the sun, and the stars still fill the night sky. Those things will not change. The foundations of life, the foundations of who we are, will not change, cannot be shaken, because those are the everlasting arms of God that give us a sure refuge. Yes, there are things like this pandemic that shake us and bring uncertainty, but underneath it all are those everlasting arms, the steadfast love of the Lord, a sure and certain future. I love that picture of the everlasting arms of God being underneath us. In Isaiah, he talks about, "I will hold you like a shepherd holds lambs in his arms." That's the everlasting arms of God. He's got us. He's got us. He's holding on to us. He's not going to let go. His love and his compassion and his mercy and his grace and his goodness and his kindness and his sustaining power will hold us solid. They're holding you today. They're holding me today. And he will not let us go because they are everlasting arms. No matter how strong the storm, it can't stop those everlasting arms from holding us. It cannot pry us from him or tear us from his love and compassion. No matter how fierce the pandemic, it cannot stop what God has set in place for you and I. And that is to be in his presence, to be his children forever. Nothing can separate us from that love of God, those everlasting arms, that hold us. Well, that's my thought today. I know that as we meditate on Scripture, it does bring us peace and hope and meaning and significance into our lives this day. That's my prayer for you. God bless you as you think about Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 27. The everlasting arms are underneath it all.